It's not a Stray Kids release without some stupid drama. What is it this time, you may ask? Well, it's more plagiarism accusations, of course. But before we get too deep into that, I want to preface that this is a two-part video. The first of which I'll address the aforementioned controversy, and the second part will be a much more enjoyable activity, to me, gushing about Stray Kids music and my overall feelings about the new album. I'll provide timestamps in the description so you can watch whichever part interests you. Could I technically make two videos out of this? Sure. But I won't and don't need to drag this out any more than necessary. While I'm at it, I would like to discourage any nonsense in my comments section. Yes, what I'm about to talk about includes two very heated fan bases, but I don't bear any ill will. As easy as it is to forget, fan bases are not monoliths made up of fans who think and act the same. I am mentioning a loud minority in this video that happens to be ARMYs. But nothing that I say in this video applies to ARMYs not spewing inaccurate information, or to BTS the group. I want to be clear about that. You don't need to agree with me, but anything hateful will be deleted. It's my comment section, I will moderate it how I see fit. If you don't like it, you can leave. Keep that in mind. With that being said, I was actually having quite a pleasant lead up to this special album's release. We were getting solo music video teasers, TikTok dumps of month-old trends, and my personal favorite, the mashup. If you're a fan of Stray Kids, you know that this mashup thing isn't anything new. They've been doing this since their In Life era. Basically, they remix snippets from their new tracks into one mega preview to build hype for whatever record they're planning to promote. This time was no different. Except, unbeknownst to me, Stayville Twitter was on fire. A fact that I was blissfully unaware of, given that I deleted my account months ago. I truly recommend it. That Bird app has been exponentially declining ever since Ragebait could be monetized. Anyway, it wasn't until a day or two before Hop's release that I started to feel the after effects of fan wars bleeding onto other platforms. Hence how I learned about this in the first place. In all honesty, I couldn't care less when it comes to fan wars. I have neither the time nor the energy. What I will give my attention to is misinformation. You see, certain ARMYs started accusing Stray Kids of plagiarism through comparisons between this section of the mashup and V's verse and BTS's Jump. This was quickly shot down when it became clear that from the credits, both K-pop songs sampled Jump by Criss Cross, a 90s hip-hop song. But never one to back down, ARMYs switched out complaints. Instead of Stray Kids plagiarizing the beat, they were now claiming that Stray Kids plagiarized V's flow. Or melody. Honestly, they use those terms interchangeably, which is actually a huge red flag. While melody and flow are foundational concepts in music, and arguably similar, they are not the same. Ironically, you'll be hearing me say that a lot. A melody is the main sequence of musical notes in a song. A flow refers to the way music moves and transitions smoothly through time, encompassing rhythm, cadence, and phrasing. But nitpicking aside, it would be silly of me not to acknowledge their similarity. What I don't agree with is the reasoning behind it. As much as you'll hear ARMYs shouting it from the rooftops, the melodies are not the same. Someone kindly reconstructed the melodies of both songs so I don't have to, which I'll show here. Obviously, not the same. But how can that be? If the melodies aren't the same and the flow they follow isn't either, why do they sound so similar? Let me introduce you to another musical concept. Progressions. These are the sequence of chords, or harmonic changes that underpin a piece of music. Think of them as the skeleton of a song. Actually, I can just show you. So I currently have FL Studio pulled up with two different loops. You'll notice that they have the same progression. The middle section I've highlighted. For clarity's sake, I made an extremely simple progression to illustrate my point, so hopefully nothing's lost in translation. The drumline underneath and the melody above are different and contribute to the composition of the song, the substance that sets these two loops apart from each other. So while they are similar, they are not the same. Let me play them for you so you can hear it for yourself. Okay, so they have the same progressions. I've made that clear. Why does that not constitute plagiarism? That is because the nature of progressions. Let me relate this to a more universal experience. Let's say that I was a teacher and I handed out exams to all of my students. I gave them specific instructions on the format of how I want the finished essay to look. I want an intro paragraph, 3 body paragraphs, and a conclusion, along with a New Times Roman font. I guess it's a class of 5th graders, I don't know. And I even give them all the same essay topic. They need to write a persuasive paper on why vanilla is better than chocolate. I don't know, it doesn't matter, it's an example. After the allotted time has passed, I collect their work. When I collect the essays, I would not accuse my students of plagiarism just because their work shares the same skeletal framework. That structure is a guideline, not a creative expression unique to any one person. In the same way, chord progressions in music are a shared framework. Countless songs use the same or similar progressions because they provide the foundation on which different melodies, rhythms, and other musical elements are built upon. The same way, no good teacher would accuse their students of plagiarism on the basis of using common guidelines, no self-respecting artist would accuse another of plagiarism based on a very common progression, which, no shade here, because obviously my faves were using this chord progression, is a very basic one. It's not complex in the slightest. But frankly, a lot of this discourse doesn't matter. Because in case you didn't catch it, all of this comparison is being done with an unofficial mashup, i.e., not the actual song. So, does the official release sound similar? Not really. The same progression stays true, but the instrumental it's played over removes it even further from any direct comparison with BTS's Jump. So the moral of the story is, who gives a fuck? The answer is me. I do. I give a fuck. Anyway, while I did want to tackle this topic, I did want to head-on address basically the strongest argument that ARMYs have currently when it comes to whether or not Stray Kids is plagiarizing BTS. Because if you didn't know, this actually comes up quite frequently with the two groups. Just to give you an idea of the kind of nonsense I've had to shift through to make this video, I saw too many ARMYs trying to call plagiarism even over the title of the special album, Hop, trying to make it seem like it's some twisted parallel with the song title Jump, instead of the very obvious connection it has with the genre of hip-hop, i.e. the genre of the title track. Honestly, it just gets dumber the more and more you dig into it. If anything, this whole situation just reminded me of 2021, when Stray Kids came out with No Easy. There was a whole commotion because in their track list was a song called Cheese, which coincided with the year that BTS released Butter. And if you've been following along with this stupid thought process, then you might be able to guess that some ARMYs were trying to make claims of accusations that Stray Kids were copying BTS because they had a song title with a dairy product in it. No, I am not joking. There was actual discourse over this. Anyway, a lot of this discourse is pretty dumb, I'm not gonna lie. There's no reason to create this kind of forced rivalry between the two of them. No, Stray Kids is not copying BTS. No, Stray Kids are not the next BTS. Both groups are respectable in their own right, and there is not a need for any of this. With that being said, hello everybody who skipped the drama, how are y'all doing? Good? Great? Awesome. It's finally time we get to the fun stuff, which is obviously the album. The track list of which consists of 12 songs, 4 of them featuring all 8 members, and then the rest being solo songs. Now obviously, as stays, if you've been following along with the tour, you already know that we've heard 8 of these songs before. The solo songs have been a part of the setlist, and we've enjoyed their live performances. However, I am super excited that we get the official tracks, so we can actually examine and dissect all of the little nuances in the production. And if I were to give a little bit of a spoiler, the production of some of these tracks were not what I was expecting, to be delicate. But before we even address that, we have 4 tracks in front of that we should talk about first. Obviously, we're starting off with the title track, Walking on Water. I would definitely say that this title track is kind of a return to form for Stray Kids, especially when compared with their latest comeback, Chick Chick Boom, which, while it was a song that I loved and appreciated, was definitely stripped back when it comes to Stray Kids standards. And I would definitely say that Walking on Water has that extra bit of spice that I was missing from Chick Chick Boom. However, I would also say that it does lack the kind of complexity I expect from Stray Kids title tracks. It is very much a cut and dry boom bap hip hop track, a song that I really only have 2 serious issues with. The first being the faux bridge that we have in this song, if you can even really call it that. And don't get me wrong, I love hearing deep voice Felix and Syngman having his time to shine in that respect, but surely they could have come up with something more interesting or creative, but I have forgiven them for it a little bit because of just how explosive the ending is. Another issue that I had with this track is actually one of the lyrics that comes out of Changbin's mouth in the beginning of the track, which I never thought I would say. I love a good Changbin rap starting off the first verse of a Stray Kids song, but Harry Potter? Excuse me? Listen, I already know I'm gonna have some fans of the franchise in the comments, asking me why I have an issue with this. Other than the fact that I have no real love for the books or the movies, the line in itself just doesn't make much sense. In which case, I really would have just preferred Changbin rap in Korean and kill it like he usually does. But yes, I do remember listening to this track at midnight when it came out, and I bust out laughing. When it comes to how I would rank this title track against all of their other ones, I don't really know at the moment. I still need more time to process it, but I honestly think it would probably be in the lower half, which is not an insult, mind you. There's not a lot of Stray Kids title tracks that I actively dislike, and this sure as hell isn't one of them. I think this just suffered the curse of, again, being under 3 minutes. And while I do say that, I can also acknowledge that Walking on Water doesn't have the same issue I had with Chick Chick Boom. That track felt underdeveloped, but this one felt like it was meant to be its length, if that makes sense. Anyway, moving on to what I consider to be the star of this album, Bounce Back. I think my favorite genre of Stray Kids songs are just the diss tracks. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm thinking about Cheese, I'm thinking about Top Line, and now you can add Bounce Back to the mix. A lot of the issues that I had production-wise with Walking on Water is kind of fixed and remedied in this song. The complexity I was missing, the aggressive Stray Kids sound, it's all in this song. Being that that's the case, my only nitpick with this song is that I don't know how many I don't give a thing and I don't give a what I can tolerate in Stray Kids songs anymore. Please, just let them say fuck. I'm telling you, that small change would elevate some of these lines from being cringeworthy to being as impactful as they want them to be. Anyway, my ending note is I love Bounce Back and you should too. After that, we have You, which finally we get this track. I was beginning to worry that this song would be a part of lost media. It was hinted back in the Rockstar era that Tablo would be featuring on one of Stray Kids' songs, and we have not seen or heard his name until this album. From the behind the scenes content, it seems like You was cut from the 8 album for whatever reason, we don't know, and was implemented instead on this special album, which I'm not really sure how to feel about. This track isn't necessarily out of place on Hop, but it definitely feels more at home on 8, especially in terms of sound cohesion, which I'm gonna be honest, 8 didn't really have in the first place, but it just makes more sense for it to be there. That being said, I also really enjoyed this track a lot. And if I were to be a little bit shady, I would say that this song feels reminiscent of Lose My Breath without having that gremlin all over the credits and infecting the track with his voice. I said what I said. After that, we have Walking on Water, hip version. This is the first alternate version of a Stray Kids title track that I understand why they didn't make the title track. Again, I do think that it's better, but I don't think the public would have reacted kindly to it. Honestly, that's the case with anything experimental Stray Kids does. With the hip version in mind, I feel more than ever the need to defend myself for liking it. Not because I'm ashamed, but more so because as soon as I heard this track, I knew what people's reaction to it would be, and it's direct opposition to mine. Personally, this isn't too out there for me. Compared to the stuff I listen to outside of K-pop, The hip version is pretty tame. Same for Giant and S-Class. More tracks that people hate and I can't get enough of. Having said that, the next tracks will be the long-awaited solo songs. So that I can do two things at once, I will be going through the solo tracks in the order that I like them.
Hello, yes, you are not going crazy. This is a mic change in the middle of the video. Unfortunately, I am not where I need to be recording the rest of this video. I got rudely interrupted, and I won't have the opportunity to actually go back to my proper mic, so I have to make do with what I have. Hopefully this isn't too bad. Just, I ask for your understanding, and please enjoy the rest of the video. That being said, the first one up is Railway. Okay, it isn't what it looks like. Yes, Bangchan is my bias, but this is actually my favorite. I'm not a statistic, okay? I'm not a stereotype. Great, now that everybody doesn't believe me, this track genuinely lives up to everything I hoped it would be, especially after catching glimpses of it during the world tour. It's undoubtedly Chase Atlantic coded. JYP, I will never forgive you for fumbling that, by the way. If you know, you know. Railway is dark, unhinged, and addictive. It reminds me of some of his past projects, like Drive and Red Lights, with an edge that feels like a fusion of the two. The sultry, almost lazy vocal delivery paired with the gritty guitar riffs hits a sweet spot for me. More than anything, Railway feels like a natural evolution from the more niche songs he's produced, and it only makes me more excited for what he releases next. And our runner-up is Hallucination by IN, an equally sexy song. I didn't make the comparison in the moment, but I saw people comparing IN's aesthetic, at least from what we saw in the solo teaser, to that of Taemin's. Basically, we are witnessing the cuntification of IN in real time. Aesthetically, IN's solo song feels reminiscent of Taemin's style, but in the terms of the actual music, I noticed some parallels with 10. Specifically his newest mini-album. Okay, never mind, I just checked. Not 10's latest mini-album, his first mini-album, that he's self-titled. Specifically, I saw some shades of the track Shadow in Hallucination. Out of all of the solo songs, I think Hallucination felt the cleanest, neatest, and tightest in terms of production. While some of the other solo tracks leaned more into experimentation, I say that loosely, as nothing in the solos was particularly out there, with the exception of maybe Changbin's. This was a track where IN delivered exactly what was needed. It's just a straightforward, good song. It didn't try to be groundbreaking or overly ambitious. It just has a catchy beat and a catchy hook that works well. I also want to highlight his vocal performance. Out of all of the members, I think IN has the most unique voice. Actually, not just among the members. His voice in general stands out when it comes to the K-pop scene. It's so easy to pick it out because of its unique tone. In a song like Hallucination, he was able to fully capitalize on that and make it shine. While I could imagine other K-pop idols singing this song, I don't think they would have had the same kind of depth or delivery that IN does. Because the song is so clean instrumentally and production-wise, it's IN's voice that really gives it that extra edge. However, this comes with a double-edged sword. His distinct tone is so unique that it can be polarizing. That's generally how idols with a unique tone are treated in K-pop. For some reason, the only other idol that comes immediately to mind is Soyeon from Idol. Both IN and Soyeon have such distinctive tones that even when you factor in their technical skills, vocals for IN, rapping for Soyeon, their voices are what make them divisive. It either draws people in or pushes them away. Anyway, it's just straight up a good song. Now, on to As We Are by Seungmin. Seungmin as an artist keeps throwing me for a loop. His music style isn't something I would normally gravitate towards. It's just not my usual taste. For example, when I think of his previous releases like Stars and Raindrops, they strike me as a very K-drama OST coded. That's not a bad thing. In fact, a lot of people are drawn to his music because of the sheer emotion he conveys through his voice, which is undeniably one of his strengths. However, the downside is that this style can sometimes feel a bit boring. That's how I feel about K-drama OSTs in general. They're beautiful in the context of the show, but when I listen to them on their own, while the quality is still there, I don't find myself returning to them often. But Seungmin has this ability to elevate the listening experience. Somehow he manages to make me enjoy his songs more than I expect to. As We Are is no exception. I didn't anticipate liking it as much as I do, and that's not a knock on him. It's just that his musical style is so different from what I typically listen to. Despite that, I've ranked this song at number 3 for a reason. I genuinely enjoyed it. Out of all of the Stray Kids members, I think Seungman's music has the potential to be the most universally appealing, especially if he decides to debut as a solo artist in the future. His style is easy to listen to and enjoy. Coming at number 4, Hold My Hand by Han. This song encapsulates everything I admire about Han as an artist. This track is a perfect representation of what's called Han pop, a genre he's crafted for himself with his distinct blend of heartfelt storytelling and unique musicality. The choice to lean into a pop rock style was unexpected, but in retrospect feels entirely fitting for Han. Known for his penchant for surprises, this shift feels natural and aligns beautifully with his ability to experiment while staying true to his essence. The upbeat instrumentation contrasts with the song's emotional core, a hallmark of Han's songwriting style. Few artists can write tracks that are both uplifting and a tearjerker. To conclude, thank you, Han, for giving me yet another Stray Kids song that I can cry to. After that, we have Youth by Lino. I'm sure you've heard it before, but I need to say it again because it's true. It feels like it was written with a pink glittery pen. Girly pop, if you will. However, I have to address the autotune in the chorus. Because why? I'm genuinely asking because I loved Lino's voice. His tone is so unique and captivating, and his Love Me or Leave Me cover is still something I'm obsessed with. That's why I can perfectly imagine this song without the heavy-handed auto-tune in the chorus, and I can't help but think of how much better it would be without it. To be fair, Stray Kids often use auto-tune stylistically in their tracks, and it's a hallmark of their sound. But for some reason, whenever Lino's voice is overly processed, it just doesn't work for me. It's not enough to ruin Youth, I still enjoy the song, but this particular choice feels like a missed opportunity to just let his natural vocal shine. Ultimately, Youth is a great track, and one I'll continue to listen to. The autotune remains a personal pet peeve that holds it back from reaching its full potential in my eyes. Next up is Ultra by Changbin. I knew he would come through for me. Changbin consistently delivers when it comes to production and rapping, and this track is no exception. Ultra is a full-on showcase of his charisma and proof of why he remains one of the most compelling rappers in K-pop. The song's energy is palpable, and his ability to layer intensity with intricate details in the production makes Ultra a standout for me. That being said, my only real gripe with the track is its length. It's simply too short. Yes, I am mentioning this again. It feels like there's untapped potential to expand and build upon the momentum Ultra establishes. Another point of contention for me is the first beat drop. While I like the build-up, the drop itself feels too empty and doesn't quite land as hard as I would have hoped. It creates a moment of disconnect in an otherwise dynamic, well-constructed track. However, once you move past that, the song picks up again and goes full speed ahead. Despite the minor drawbacks, Ultra still hits hard and leaves a lasting impression. With a little more length and a stronger drop, this track could have been a flawless knockout. Even as it stands, though, it's a song I'll keep coming back to. We're almost there, guys, I promise. The next one is Unfair by Felix. It's a truly beautiful song from a conceptual standpoint. I loved the idea of using the story of Beauty and the Beast as a framework to explore Felix's own thoughts, feelings, and journey with unconditional love. What surprised me the most was Felix's use of his higher register, a touch of rapping, and an overall refined delivery that elevated the listening experience compared to his other solo songs. However, as much as I want to praise this track, I have to address the issue of autotune. Again, the heavy use of autotune on the vocal doubling in the chorus was, unfortunately, quite distracting. It was overly processed to the point where it disrupted the emotional weight of the song. This stood out even more because I had already heard Unfair live, and it was absolutely stunning in that setting. I remember wearing out SoundCloud just to keep replaying the only available version of the track at the time. Perhaps it's easier to overlook the nuances of production in a live performance, but in the official release, the auto-tune feels grating and takes away from Felix's voice. While the studio version of Unfair has its strengths, I think I will be sticking with the live version. It just sounds better with Felix's voice not being altered. And finally, we arrive at the last track, Life is So Good by Hyunjin. Life is So Good is undeniably a dance track, and it wears that label proudly. The song is built around a killer beat. However, it's clear that this track is more of a vehicle for showcasing his dancing skills rather than for musical or vocal exploration. That's not necessarily a bad thing. Dance pop is a popular genre for a reason. It's just that, in the context of this mixtape, Life is So Good feels somewhat out of place. Given Hyunjin's gradual integration into Stray Kids' production process, I expected something that showcased more of his vocal capabilities or lyrical prowess, especially in a solo project. Something like Cover Me, Ice Cream, or Love Untold. Instead, this track feels like it could easily belong as a B-side in a future project, should Hyunjin decide to release one. While I could see myself coming back to Life is Good, it just doesn't have the lasting impact as some of his other tracks in his catalog. Additionally, the heavy use of autotune takes away from my enjoyment. Again, to be fair to Hyunjin, I really only have an issue with its use on one particular line, and that is on the phrase, "Life is so good" in the chorus. It just doesn't sit well with me. It's the first time in this mixtape that I actively thought something sounded bad. Life is so good serves its purpose, but it is definitely not a standout in this mixtape. It would shine more in the context of a full-fledged project, where this singular track squarely emphasized Hyunjin's performance skills. And that's the mixtape. Overall, I'm happy with the music we got, but I can't help but feel there's a bit of false advertising at play. The title of the special album, Hop, and everything that's led up to it, led many of us, myself included, to expect a hip-hop-oriented release, something I've been eagerly anticipating from the group. While the group tracks do offer a glimpse of that hip-hop influence, the theme seems to get lost in much of the track list. Out of all of the songs, Chungmin's track is the only one that truly fits the description of a hip-hop-focused song. The rest of the tracks, while solid, feel more like a mixed collection of styles rather than sticking to the hip-hop theme. It feels like the album should have been marketed as a mixtape in the literal sense, a collection of songs that don't necessarily fit into a cohesive genre or theme. That being said, I can't help but feel a little disappointed that the hip-hop concept, which had so much potential, was only present in 5 songs. Like I briefly mentioned, I've been awaiting this kind of style of music from Stray Kids for a long time. And I thought that with the release of this mixtape, that's finally what we were going to get, but unfortunately not. In the future, I hope they revisit this concept and deliver a fully realized hip-hop project. Of course, as we all know, this album won't be promoted either, on music shows or variety shows, given their schedule on tour. So it feels like this comeback was dragged down by that even further. I'm not really upset, mind you, but I feel as though they could have released this project like Skiz Replay, just so that people's expectations wouldn't be at the level of an actual comeback. Although it technically is an actual comeback. But it isn't. But it is. But it isn't. You see what I mean? Please let me know what you thought of the album, of specific songs, and what you thought of my ranking of the songs. That'll be it from me for now. See y'all later. Bye-bye.